All right. So yesterday, among other things, we got into the difference between a feeling and a sensation, and what the differences were. I don't know if we really pinpointed that. And I don't know if we get into intuition and when you can tell if somebody is potentially dangerous. And I believe that you can, just as you can tell that a dog may bite you if you've been around animals long enough. If you're around humans, most of us are, that you can tell when a human can be harmful and not good for you. And sometimes it's better to disengage instead of engage. And some of the perhaps triggers are warnings that one can get when they are confronted by a person that is toxic or someone that can hurt you. I don't know if Joe has any response to that, but I'm going to put myself on mute and see if he does. I'll give him
I
a
think we explained this yesterday, so go over it again, and I want to put it away. The differences between sensation and emotion. A sensation is a physical feeling or a perception that comes into contact with a body or with the body. And then something is sensed, it's an emotion. So your instinct, your, I don't know what you said, some sort of intuition. Intuition is also part of an emotion. It's internal and it's involuntary, and it causes involuntary physiological responses. So there's a big difference there.
Yes. So I find myself less and less engaging with toxic people, and there are, a lot of toxic people out there, and it doesn't matter what, aisle of the political spectrum they're on, but there are toxic individuals out there, and some of the trigger warning signs to look out for and how to protect yourself or how one can protect themselves. I, for one, am I am protecting myself right now against someone who is toxic, who is saying just off the wall stuff, and he's done this before. So I have pattern recognition to know that he's in this place, and he is turning like an animal that turns rabid. If now in the case of an animal turning rabid, I think you just have to put them down. But in this case, he is a person that can turn rabid, and he cannot be trusted with his behavior. And I just I do not engage, and that goes for me almost within political talk. When somebody is talking a lot of hyperbolic nonsense, what's the point of engaging with them? I don't think anything good is going to come out of it. And for the most part, they will more than likely try and hurt you. I don't know if Joe has any comment on that, but I will.
Stay away.
Yes.
That's my best advice. You could just move on. You don't even have to acknowledge it. You don't have to answer the call. You don't have to respond to a text. You don't have to do any of that if you don't feel like you want to. All right, next.
Stay away. Don't answer the call. Don't take a text. Don't take an email. And if it comes down to it even worse, block your number. Block your phone. You don't have to contend with someone that you don't, for whatever reason you feel. You don't have to contend with anybody that you don't want to contend with. But now I would say if you do own a company and you own a business, I think that on a large scale, you should before you fire someone, that person should be entitled to some form of a due process. And I'd like to think on this show we do give people a due process. There is someone on our who's been a frequent guest on our show, who I think often comes to flex his intellectual knowledge, but he does so not in the best manner. And I strive to follow YouTube's rules. They are rather arbitrary, but they're there to a degree. I mean, they do have certain parameters. And I also, this person who comes on, we'll just call him Howard, and he's been on my show many times. I think he's one of our biggest fans, even though he says that the show completely sucks. He will use his knowledge, his so-called knowledge and expertise, to harm. He's not there really to have a conversation with you. He's more likely to, what I believe, talk at you. And I don't know if that is a good assessment, but Dennis just made a comment about Howard the coward. I don't know if Howard is a coward, but I do believe that he uses his knowledge to belittle and harm, not to educate and not to be a decent and nice person. Joe, do you have any comment on that? Do you see the same thing?
I've told Howard this many times. He's got an option every time he comes on and talks about anything with you. He has the choice of coming in as an adult, using his adult mind to further the conversation, or and that doesn't mean not use humor and everything else. It just means staying on a certain path. But we know Howard, and that he can side rail and go off the rails and become very hurtful for no reason, and for his own masturbation or something to kind of keep his own mind tickled pink. And he does that every once in a while, so he can come in and use his childlike mind. And I've always said that to him, and he knows the difference. For the most part, I think he's been great. He's done some really fun shows with us. He had me in stitches one night.
He does make me laugh at times, but other times it's like, Howard, why would you say that? And I think there's a part of him that wants to, on purpose, derail the show. And like, if you have any guests, I think he would have pleasure in derailing the guests and putting them in their place, or
Yeah.
his place, for his own ego purposes. He's not there. He's not there for the common good, and having a conversation. Because me personally, I will absolutely change my views if shown different evidence. And some things are even true, perhaps, like this country supposedly doesn't like me and doesn't respect me, and he thinks I should leave. Well, I don't want to leave a foreign country where I don't speak the language. And, communication with people, I think, is important. And I only speak one language, and that's English. And I like America. I like a lot of the people in America. Right now, I don't necessarily perhaps like all of the policies. Um, but I'm hoping to fight for the America that I believe in, and get something back. Maybe that won't happen. I don't know. Maybe it's done for. I always I always think it's best to, if a person has an ideology in mind and a belief. My next question is, okay, what do you want to do with it? What do you want to do? You know, uh, white silence. You think white silence is violence and raise all voices? What do you mean by that? And exactly what should be done? What do you think should be done? And what are you going to do if I don't agree with you? And how are you going to respond if I disagree or resist your ideas? Uh,
I don't think Dennis speaks in innuendos and analogies or riddles. I think he speaks gibberish.
Dennis speaks great whiskey bottle talk at times, and he is fun for entertainment, and I enjoy. Some people may think that I speak whiskey bottle or maybe candy bar talk. I get kind of silly, so it is what it is. But I am still struggling with my diet. I've gotten better with my diet. I don't drink soda anymore, and I don't eat any form of things that are with processed sugar. I don't do any of that. But I still eat too much. I eat healthy food, and I eat primarily. I stick to a keto level diet, but I still eat too much food. That right now is my biggest weakness.
What's keto? What does that mean? You're eating mostly what?
Um,
Protein?
Protein and like like I guess what they call complex carbs, like broccoli and things like that. So I eat. It's basically a no carb.
But is it high meats or no?
High meats, and I guess they call them maybe complex carb.
So what you could do, if you could take that diet and then instill that chart I showed you to maintain a balance, your acid balances, then you'd really see some improvement. Because with high meats and you don't like vegetables and fruits.
I like vegetables. I don't like fruit.
Okay. What array of vegetables are we talking about? Are we talking about just broccoli, or do you have an array?
broccoli, asparagus, cauliflower, spinach. Is spinach a fruit or a vegetable?
That would count in the leafy vegetable. So, okay. So, if you can mix it up like that, that's great. But if you're imbalancing it by eating 10 times the ratio, 10, in other words, 10 ounces of meat to 1 ounce of vegetables on average, then your acid levels are going to be way high. So it's just something to look at. It may sound like a little bit like splitting hairs, but it's really finding a balance that's sustainable that you could use for the rest of your life and get better at, but maintaining the pH balance and keeping with low carbs, always a good start for sure. So we got Donning Armor, we got Dennis Dyke, and I'm guessing Donning Armor Cock is here too. I'm just guessing. I saw him here earlier. I just like saying it. It's funny.
He may be.
But yeah, all right. Do you want to bring anybody in, or do you want to keep going, or do you want to make it short?
You know what? We can bring a few people. You know what? If anyone wants to come in, you're welcome into our server. So I'll anyone who wants to come in and talk about their anger issues. I certainly do have anger issues, and I strive to basically deal with them in the best and most healthy way possible. One of them is dealing with my diet, and fasting, I believe, helps with that when I am fasting and I'm dealing with my hunger, the sensation or the feeling of hunger, and I'm in touch with that emotion. It also helps me get in touch with other emotions and feelings that I have that trigger me. So that form of restraint builds upon itself. It's like a building block of strength. And each time I do it, I build on, it builds on other strengths. I mean, I think that the fasting helps with, like, if you're procrastinating on other issues, uh, the fasting for me helps in that area too. And then it helps me decide to eat healthier and better. And so I'm trying to do a building block of disciplines that help me in my to be my best human potential. Anyway, Howard, do you have anything to add to what I said? Now, by the way, I did put the StreamYard in there. If anyone wants to connect, they are certainly welcome to try to do so. The last time Donning Armor was not able to connect, so that is okay. But the building blocks to self-discipline for me start with the fasting. And then, because particularly as me being a diabetic, I'm much more clear-headed when I do fast and the less that I eat. Joe, do you have anything or any comment to state that of some of the thing that I just said?
Not really. No.
Yes. And we do have a few basically ideas that we're still working on. And I have a few ideas on how we can better present our products that are out there and what we can do to promote some of the things that we're trying to promote. But it's always a continuing
Did you ever
process.
get an answer for that question you asked on that thing that we're on?
Yes, I did actually.
Did it help?
It did. Now, Donning Armor is here, and I'm going to put him on the stream. Oh, you already did. Hey, Donning, how are you? How have you been? dawning.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
I certainly can hear you. How
Oh,
have you been?
I've been well. Thank you for asking. Hope you guys are doing well.
Now, I imagine that a lot of people make you very angry because you see a lot of what you would say is probably hyperbolic and people coming in with emotional rhetoric and not being real, which I think you're more real than a lot of the leftists out there. I don't agree with you, but I do see you as being more authentic and real than, like I said, a lot of the leftist individuals out there. You have a comment
Yeah.
on that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go for it.
Yeah. That was my statement. I wonder if you had a comment on that statement.
Um, I that's a tricky one. I'd have to put some thought into that. I don't know what happened last time. I wasn't able to get through, but I I see you're talking about, well, stoicism naturally, right? And you're talking about anger. Yes, I've struggled with anger. Um, may I ask you, Brian, do you believe that emotions should be suppressed? Um, I'm one that tends to try to embrace emotion, but not let it get the better of you, not let it control you. So if you can explain, if you think that it's always a weakness, sometimes a weakness, or I'll let you respond.
I'm going to take a quick drink of water, and then I am going to um, respond about emotion and embracing it. I think you should embrace your emotions as a form of information, but and one should be aware of their emotions. They should be aware of their fear, their anger, their sadness, and all of it. But I think it is important to try to harness those emotions because even in a physical confrontation, an angry person will lose in a fight against a trained person. So it is good to train and part of training is being able to focus and harness your emotions. One of the things that I see, and I see this more with men who cry a lot, to me, that is a sign of weakness and instability. And a person that rages and is angry all the time is also somebody that is unstable. A person that is habitually angry is not to be trusted. The same thing with a person, particularly a male who boo-hoos a lot. That is a person that is not to be trusted because they are not stable. And I
Well, let
want
me ask you this: in respect to what you just said, what type of people are the most successful versus the ones who are not?
I would say I would like the people that I have observed being the most successful are people that are able to uh, control their emotions, and this is people who are people who are able to not fly off the handle. Uh, I remember one person, and I won't mention his name, but he was head of a division, and he said sometimes I bite my tongue so hard it bleeds, because saying my feelings to this person is a bad strategy. It's not going to get me what I want. It's, as a matter of fact, in the long run, it's going to hurt me. And it was something that this person was not going to give in on, but this person knew that if he lashed out at him, he would lose that ally forever. And he said, yeah, at that time I bit my tongue down so hard that it bled, because I knew, I wanted to strike at him, but I knew that that wasn't the way to go. And I know another person who, if they didn't get what they wanted, would always lash out. And one person was very successful and the other was not. And I've seen this time and time again with people. On average, the people who are successful are the people who bite their tongue and realize, the chess game of life. Because sometimes when you're playing chess, if you're too aggressive, you don't realize that you are open, and you don't, and you don't deal with your defense, then you get open for attack and you get crushed. So I think, part of the lessons in life is to know how to strike and when to strike, and when to speak and when to keep your mouth shut. And I know these things, but sometimes I have a difficult time doing it. I know on an intellectual battle that it's sometimes best not to get into some of these Twitter arguments with leftists who are hyperbolic and foolish, because at the end of the day, I'm not convincing them of anything, and they could come back and hurt me. Concluded. Joe, I don't know if you have a statement for that comment, but that's the way I see it.
What about that monster in the corner, Angela? Can you answer that question?
Angela, do you have anything? Why are you calling her a monster?
Treat me with respect, because I have well earned it. And I have a little bit of a nose problem today, so if I sound a little funky, that's real. As far as being consistently successful, I have found people to have a good routine. They usually work out, 3 to 5 times a week. They have a strong spiritual base of what they hold true, or a system of core beliefs, boundaries, if you will, and they stay within them, and that defines them. And they set their boundaries so no one else sets them, so they're not restrictions. I'm thinking of billionaires I grew up knowing. I didn't think they were anything different. They were down to earth, but the routine was real important. Concluded.
Dawning, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I think that it can go both ways. Certainly, to at least try to control one's emotions and stick to a routine. Well, that's a healthy lifestyle. But I can think of, um, although I may not be able to come up with any names off the top of my head, but extremely successful people, one percenters, who did have very large egos and did rage at times. They were, in fact, known for it. So I see it both ways. I'm somebody like, well, I'm better now, but I used to fly off the handle, and I was not, I was boohooing and, doing drugs and getting in street fights all the time in my youth. Um, Once I came to grips with certain things, I managed to Control them to some extent. I still, at times, get livid. I'm not going to say that I don't. But I feel that my quality of life is better the less I act on my emotions in an irrational way rather than use them for, progressing myself, use them in positive ways. But I certainly think that people should embrace their emotions. And it sounds like everybody on the panel does as well. So I will drop there. Concluded.
Well, I do embrace my emotions as a way to inform me, but I want to try to uh, think before I act and realize that there are triggers that people do. And we're living in a time where things are, we're online, and people are very, their views and their beliefs. Uh, it's people are, and I'm also perhaps even in my own myopic little bubble of individuals who may think like me or think more like me, and it's hard for me at times not to be and react emotionally, particularly when I've been told to shut the F up and told to F off. And basically, people I think, have had desire to cancel me. And it's a very unfair thing. And when individuals say that you're not entitled to due process, really and truly, these people do not believe, in my opinion, they're just hiding their true beliefs. They don't believe in due process for me or for you, is when they say that to you. And if this were a court of law, they would see you just starved out of society. And there are cases that I look at and observe, particularly the case of, I think it's Jacob Gardner. I think is it now I can't even remember his name, but he was the gentleman in
Jake.
Is it Jake Gardner, the gentleman who ended up committing suicide in Nebraska, was driven to suicide, I believe, by the left. Poverty. He was driven to first poverty and then to suicide by the left, and that this and the people that did this go unshamed. And there's I think her name is Megan Hunt. She basically was one of the individuals that helped with the mob to economically ruin him and cause him to commit suicide. I'm not going to go into the case again. You guys can read about it. Megan Hunt was one of the people who admitted that. Well, no, I will go into the case. I think Jacob Gardner, defending his bar and defending his father, basically tried to repel the mob. He shot a gun in the air, and then he was tackled from behind and put in a headlock. And the person started, smashing him in the head. He shot the person through the left clavicle. The person, the prosecuting attorney, the Nebraska's prosecuting attorney, said this is an open and shut case of self-defense. It was on tape. And a mob went to his house, and he reversed it. And basically, the person went on trial, and he was driven to bankruptcy. He was not allowed to go on any GoFundMe sites. And the person was basically so distraught that he ended up taking his life. And that, to me, is a travesty of justice and a travesty of morality. And that is something that I would like to see these bankers and some of these social media companies brought to justice, because they are making a very unjust society. I would love to see that happen. a form of due process and a form of shaming of these people of what they have done to our society, not only in America, but throughout what I consider, and I know Joe doesn't agree with the word civilized world, but what I consider what they are doing in the civilized world. They are making it very unnoble in a very nasty place.
It's not that I don't agree with
Yes.
it, as long as your intention is, in my opinion, a better description of what you're trying to say is a peaceful nation rather than a civilized nation or civil nation. I'm just saying, if you want to stay away from the political, there's a lot of ways to interpret civil. That's.
I disagree. I think a civil world or nation is a better term. Brian was right.
Not. There's many. You can't tell me how I interpret civil. Can you?
No, I'm saying I'm disagreeing with what you're saying. I think
how could you
was completely right. I'm not bashing on you. I'm not telling you I have over 600,000 listens now, 615. But, that would be bashing you. Whoops, I dropped the phone.
You have 600.
I disagree. I think he was right. Concluded.
Well, a peaceful society, because I'm not I'm not an aggressor. I believe in the non-aggression principle. But once aggression takes place, however that person that is aggressed, however they respond, can never equal what the aggressor did. I mean, I'm doing fine if you and me are just talking, but once you get violent towards me, however I respond, like, hey, and the person that gets violent doesn't get to choose how I choose to defend myself. And there are a lot of people out there who say how I should have handled the aggressor, not that how the aggressor handled me. The whole thing with this Kyle Rittenhouse case. Someone gets aggressive with you and give in to the mob or fight a man to man. I don't have to do that.
And I must add that Kyle was chased down the road by this rogue, and he got what he deserved. Kyle was in fear for his life. And why should he be held accountable for this man's aggression, his aggressions, his intent to harm Kyle? So I'm all on Kyle's side.
But regardless of how you describe it, my take on it, whether you would like to say a peaceful society or a civil society, I think that's something that everybody on this panel wants. But how do we get there that's the pressing issue. How do we get there, and how did we lose it? Because we did used to be a civil, peaceful nation. We had civility and peace across the Western world for quite some time, spare 2 world wars, I suppose. But how do we get back to it? And what is going wrong that is causing us to lose control? And I don't want to make it about race again, but I just think it's
point well heard. I think social mores, they've been changing over the last 3 decades from what I can remember. What was acceptable now would never have been acceptable back then. I think accountability needs to be put in place, but not in a cancel culture. Really? Really? You had to type that? I'm sorry, JP typed something. See, now I just jumped to a reaction. See, JP is one of my triggers. And I have learned that it's best not to react, but to respond. And I totally got off topic because I reacted.
Please just...
and society's doing that. They're reacting instead of responding. Concluded.
Do not pay any attention to me. Just respond as normal. Okay. Angela the Monster has concluded.
Okay,
yeah.
But what
I got over 600,000 listens, JP. What do you got? See? All right. I have to shove that in your face. I'm sorry, Donnie. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah,
Like Dennis would.
let's have Donning respond, please.
I will be expecting proof of your 600,000 followers or listens. Go ahead, Dawning.
I have like 60 subscribers. Am I cool? I'm not very popular, but I think that we need to address the meat of the issue. What is causing the problem, rather than just, you know, thinking about the problem in general. We need to get to the source of it. I find it to be forced integration. If anybody, not let it necessarily, well, forced integration necessarily means violence. I don't know of any example, at least none that I have found, where it does not lead to violence. But that's the one issue that you can't discuss in today's modern world. And and you're using, the Jake Gardner and Kyle Rittenhouse. These are two giant cases. Excuse me, I apologize. That were extremely popular across all social media. And why were they popular? They were popular because they're white people. But people they feel uncomfortable talking about that. That's the fact of the matter. If Jay Gardner was a black guy or Kyle Rittenhouse was a black guy, it wouldn't be discussed. Whether they were right or wrong, it wouldn't be discussed. So I think that that's the biggest issue that we as a society need to deal with. And this is not just happening in the United States of America, it's happening across the Western world, as I've said. So we need to come to terms with this. And I will drop the mic.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's gotten worse over the years. The media has habitually lied about crime. They lie about. I think they're dishonest about, and not only the media, but the government lies about whether it be crime or welfare statistics. It does tell things that are untrue, and this has been going on for years, and it's just gotten habitually worse. Social media, basically the mainstream media, seems to have a narrative, and if you go against that narrative, they will attack social media. For a while, social media was like the Wild West, and you could basically say whatever you want. And these mainstream and these corporate types, instead of supposedly debunking and trying to convince us the error of their ways, they come with threats and primarily threats of economic disaster and just silencing you. That's what they do as of now. And there is no transparency. There's no transparency without freedom, without a robust freedom of speech, and
Yes.
this new technology that was provided to us, the information age, and it's these corporations have turned the information age on its head. It's now the age of censorship and punishment.
Yes, Brian. I also think that it's social engineering dictatorships that are causing the civil rights industrial complex to explode, where it intervenes in every area. Now, if the Black culture can hold the white culture accountable, why can't we do the same with other cultures? I speaking on behalf of white culture. So, I had a lot that I agreed with Donnie, and of course you, Brian. Yeah, you say things so well. I think really we need to look at these social engineering giants as dictators. They have their own world, and we're just pawns. And I'm tired of getting squished. I don't know about you. Concluded.
JP, if you'd like to speak on that, or I will just chime in?
Go ahead, Donnie.
Okay, well, oh, the media, mainstream media, I think most anyone at this point realizes that they're full of it. But they're failing businesses, they're failing corporations. Why do they do what they do? Well, they want to inflame, they want to cause drama and strife and turmoil between society, however they can divide it, because that gets views. That's the reason why Jake, I can't remember the guy's name, and Kyle Rittenhouse, Gardner, that's why you're discussing those two topics, because the mainstream media went on and on and on about them, and they constantly talk about racial divisions. I'm simply, I suppose, in a way, I expect corporations to strive to make profit. That's what they do. They're profit driven. And I might not agree with their political stance, be it left or right, or I may agree with it. I was going to do my next video on this, but
You know
I
what?
can't.
More. I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead, Donnie.
No, I can't. It doesn't solve anything. I expect them to be deceitful. I expect them to try to stir the pot so that they can get more viewers, because they are struggling businesses. Everybody knows that all of the newspaper magazines and all of the mainstream channels, they're all struggling for ratings. They're gonna, out of desperation, and that's giving them, the benefit of the doubt, because really, I think they are led by some pretty nefarious billionaires. But it's what's to be expected. But we need solutions. We all know that things aren't going the way that they should be, but they're going that way. How can we reverse these trends? How can we get back to, as they would say, the good old days? Mic free. Sorry, JP, go for it.
I was merely actually kind of forgot my other point, but I think one of the ways to do it is for people to break the shackles of this really awful, sort of like a veneer, a covering of reality with this system that's in place. And so many people, and I get this, there's people with families, young families, it doesn't matter, but I would say that that's a huge barrier for breaking through in any kind of mass consciousness kind of way, where everybody can just strive for getting back to what is reality. And we've been so programmed and trained to look at the man with a nice suit and tie and give him authority, when each and every one of us has all the authority we could ever want. We just don't know how to access it. And the system is designed to make people forget that fact. That's why our entertainment rams ideas like a Jake Gardner, or ideas like Rittenhouse, and these other mainstream stories that pick up so much traction. It's just the ultimate divide and conquer. I think Donning even mentioned that, but that's 100% what it is. Even mentioning a Jake Gardner and giving that story any more life than it already has does as much damage as anything. The best way is to put those stories away. Recognize them for what they are: complete put-ups, completely scripted nonsense, designed for one purpose, and that's to keep people to keep people in fear, and B, to create this veneer over what is reality. And people have strayed so far from that, they don't understand how much power they have, each and every one of us. And it's sad to watch it. And but I won't participate in that. Concluded.
Angela?
Just a minute here. You notice there's 4 squares on the screen, and one of these squares is not like the other. You know, I think the 3 of us are in reality, except for the red corner up top. The red corner, you know, I'm just not into conspiracy land, just not into it. You know, I think we need to discuss these ideas, have a conversation, because what creates change? Conversations. Concluded.
What was the conspiracy? Wow, weird.
All right. So, a lot of things out there. There are things going around of what reality is and what not reality is, and what is the motivation behind people. My belief is this, and this is what I have personally observed. We are amongst people who are akin to religious zealotry. And they believe in what they believe in. And if you speak out against them, they will treat you like a heretic. And their belief is so strong within them that if you argue against them, they will take it as a personal offense. And they use words like speech is violence. And
silence is also violence. I apologize, but
yeah. White silence is violent. I mean, they say white silence is violence, and also speech can also be violence and can be very hurtful. And these are religious zealots. And in my opinion, they have sway, if not control, over corporate boardrooms in this country, and not only in this country, but within the civilized world. And they have taken hold of that as of now. And these are not popular ideas. If you go to the ADL website, if you go to their YouTube page, the ADL was one of the first activist groups to remove their like to dislike ratio. They were the first to remove their thumbs down. They don't even have their like or dislike ratio, and they completely turn off their comments.
He's right.
Because they know that their ideas are unpopular. And now YouTube has completely removed the dislike ratio. And this is because the corporate media believes in what they're saying, and they don't want to be thumbs down anymore. They don't want the people to know. They don't want the people to know how unpopular their ideas are. And this, to me, the whole eliminating the thumbs down is truly an assault against transparency. And this kind of thing seems to be I don't know what to call it, a psyop, but a real psychological trick that they're trying to do. But if anyone has a mind, I think people can say, I'm on to you. I'm on to your game. I know what you're doing. And I think that people have to be intelligent. They have to know when to boycott, when to buy, and who to support. This right now is an economic Cold War, an ideological and economic Cold War. And
I have to second that, and I say that we need to organize. We really, truly need to organize with like-minded people and people that are different from us or from the way we are similar in our thinking. We may not think exactly alike, but it is similar.
I'm thinking that this is perhaps a worldwide something that we have to, with regards to money, this is a worldwide fight. This is a worldwide economic fight. There are times for self-defense, but there's also time for retreat and intelligent engagement. And that's what we have to do. I think that's one of the things that we should do. Anyone have? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it is a war. It's an ideological war, and they've won. They have all the money. They have all the media. They run the show. They have the governments. So what they're doing is winning. All I'm trying to do is peaceful separation, meaning if we need to come together over something. Now, you can argue whether it needs to be coming together over the right or the left, or Christian or atheist or anything else. I think that the most appropriate thing that we can unite over as the Western world, which is white, is our ethnicity, our heritage, our race. And doesn't mean that I have hatred or animosity towards any other group of people. I expect them to do the same, but it's white people that seem to struggle with it. And whenever you talk about it, it becomes very uncomfortable. White people just don't think in those terms. We're very individualistic. I just think that that's the best path to success, to ensuring, I won't say the 14, don't worry, but to ensure the survival and success of our culture and our people. And there's nothing wrong with that. And
I love what you said, because you say that it becomes uncomfortable when we talk about these things. Why does it become uncomfortable? Maybe that alone is a great topic and a point to talk with our sisters and brothers of our culture.
I really like you, Woodstock. She's a smart lady. I don't care what JP says about you.
She's the dumbest. Donning Armor Jr. Donning Armor Jr. What's going on? Do you have a word today?
What's the topic? I just joined.
We were just talking about Angela and being a monster.
Hey, we're talking about ideas. You be right.
All right, guys. Let me just say this: if any vulgarity comes out of this, I will remove people from this.
Yes, and no vulgarity.
I believe Angela's a nice person. Don't listen to JP.
Wonderful.
There we go. I want to say, for me, I think that people have to demand reality. I mean, people should strive to demand reality. And I think that you can speak hard truths to anybody. And there are people that are living in reality and not hyperbolic nonsense. And there is a real world out there, and real things are happening. And people can have mutual respect for one another. And if they can't, then you have to strive to remove yourself from that person.
So here's what would be of way more importance than a Kyle Rittenhouse or a Jake Gardner story to me would be if one of you guys or any of you or all of you came in and we did a show one day or if we had an ongoing discussion about a similar sort of thing that happened in your life, not something you found on YouTube, not some sort of sensationalized story that you see on the news, but an actual story from somebody who goes to their local city council meetings, for example, or somebody who has been doing an audit on their local corporations or government. real action or real observation seems to impact and be something that helps me kind of fall into a more kind of creative space where you can get into discussing the solutions, because I think if there is such problem out there, then we should be seeing it. Here we have a fine little sample here, 5 different people with 5 different experiences. Somebody surely should have these stories locked into their personal agendas, into their personal lives. And
I
since
have tons of videos.
don't think I was finished yet, but go
Okay.
ahead.
Well, I was just trying to support what you had to say, but you
Don't.
finish, please.
All right, I'm done.
I got something to say.
Well, you got one chance to say it.
Guys, please let my son speak. Downing Jr., go
Thanks,
for
Dad. First of all, how's everybody going first? How's you guys' day?
Oh, no, it's wonderful. We've only been here an hour talking about it.
We hope you're doing well as well. Everything's dandy over here. Peachy cream.
Well, thank you.
Anything else, fancy guy?
Not yet. I just want to see how you guys are doing.
Right on. All right. Angela, did you have something to say?
Well, I've gone to many, many city council meetings. There are meetings that they have earlier in their day. They're big weekly meetings. I've discussed different local things, but it's usually trash. That's one big issue at city councils everywhere is trash. Are you talking about what local citizens are dealing with on the daily versus nationally? Is that what you're talking about, JP?
All right. So what you just said could be a perfectly fine example. You just said you went to your city council meetings and they are trash. All right. Well, that's not an answer, Angela. I'm talking about
No. Their issue, the big issue at a lot of city councils is trash. Like, what trash company are they going to pick? What days are they going to service this part of the city versus the other? I mean, if anything's going to bring down a city council, it's trash. I've been there when they've had protests and on the box. They tried to ban box companies from one part of Tulsa, for example, and it gets really heated. So,
See,
or about the jail. Go ahead.
that is what they should be about. They should be about those things. Those things actually matter. They should be discussing
absolutely
where they're going to build the new energy plant, or how to repair the roads, or how to dispose of their waste. Those are actual issues that affect actual people's lives. But more and more often, you're seeing them talk about how white privilege is a problem, and how there's too many white people in this community, or too many white people in this school, or not enough black kids are achieving their high school diploma. And it comes down to this critical race theory and all this other nonsense. But there's actual real issues, and I know that they're boring, but those are real issues. I would like to return to those good old days. And more we see it shifting into race. The more integrated we become, the more we're going to talk about it. Mark my words, and it will get worse. I'll drop the mic.
I find what you said really important, and it also related to what I was trying to get to when I talked to Brian earlier, and we were discussing when I asked him what are the measures for success, and he didn't quite get there. But what I was going for is what you stated, is that these topics of importance are considered boring, just like a person's level of success is usually an unfair measurement. A lot of time, and not every time, but there's a lot of a-holes that become successful for doing some pretty scandalous things. All you have to do is look at the president of the Federal Reserve, who was caught insider trading, and what was the result? What was the outcome of that? He declared that an investigation on himself, and he got less than a slap on the wrist. He was basically told not to trade at certain times. There were certain times where you couldn't trade. It was unbelievable. So this bad guy walks off with all the money, and the rest of us sit around smirking and talking about the problems. And in my opinion, these are the huge problems that the measures for success need to be addressed. And I think that I don't know. I think people have to maybe think a little differently on what is a true measure of success, in order for something like at a local level, something boring like trash and sanitation disposal could actually be of much higher value in the overall discussion. I don't know if that made
And
sense,
I
but I'm
do need to say something that not only are there city council meetings in your local city, but there should be commissioner meetings. They deal more with transportation. One group will deal with the sheriff department, the other group will deal with the police. Say the city council is over the police and the commissioners are over the sheriff department. Learning what issues go to what area is very important if you want to affect change in your local area. Nationally, there's other things you can do. So I'm just saying you need to be educated and learn how to organize and get a team together to work on a specific project. Concluded.
I completely agree. It's just unfortunately because of this melting pot that we call the United States, which it was never intended to be one, and across the Western world, the more admixture you get, the less time we have for important issues like that. Even in your local school board, at your local high school, uh, I mean, race is becoming more and more and more of an issue. It will continue, and it's a serious issue, but we're on the dirty end of the stick. We're losing this as white folk, and uh, we were progressing. We have built the greatest civilizations humanity has ever known. Now, how many Europeans do you think want to come to the United States? Heck, I know Asians. I've been all over Asia. I know many Asians that say, "Oh, I wouldn't go there. It's dangerous. It's bad." Before they
The
would have.
The French will come here because they have so many. I don't want to make it about race, but there's issues with different groups in France, and they're happy to come to the States.
I'm sure that you can find some. However, the fact that I've spoken with people from developing nations that can't make anywhere near the amount of money that you could make here, telling me, I don't want to go there, it's dangerous, I'm afraid. Why is that happening? It's not, it's happening for the obvious reason that different ethnicities it's the reason why we have nations in the first place, just to begin with. Because like-minded people and people that are more closely related in groups, they get along better in their own communities. When you smash them all together, the melting pot, it's where you burn things. It's not
No,
a happy
I get
place.
that, but about nationalities is about a nation. It's not about
No, it's about
what
a
shade of
people.
humanity you are. I think people get confused when they talk about, you know, uh, my nationality. It can be your culture that you truly care about. The nationality may be something else, but
Well,
that's something that could be discussed.
yeah, no, but a culture is built by a specific group of people, an ethnic group of people that are similar, right? They're related to each other.
Yes.
That's why Latvia is different from Lithuania, is different from England, is different from France. They all build their own culture, they build their own society, and they have the societal norms. If you interfere or interrupt with that in group preference and you force integration, you're going to get problems. And certainly the United States has problems, as well as many other Western countries.
Well, like the Ukraine right now, Putin's wanting to take Ukraine back. The Kiev is in the Ukraine, and it used to be the capital of the USSR. Now, when President Obama was in power, he tried to come in and take the Ukraine. He sees Biden as a very, very weak player, and the only move that Ukraine has is to not fight, so that other people will come to their aid. They don't even have a great economy. Their major business is agriculture. And Putin wants to absorb Belarus as well. When you talk about nationalities and cultures, I automatically jump to what's going to happen to Ukraine now. Are they Russian? Are they Ukrainian? What are they? What are we? Concluded.
I wanna just, I don't know if it's a devote, but America was at one time many different types of, primarily of European cultures, and those cultures have assimilated. I do believe that it is leftism that promotes division and jealousy and envy. I believe that South Africa is a racial vendetta nation, and it's a racial vendetta nation because of leftism. So I think that leftism is a far bigger boogeyman than multiculturalism or multiracialism, or even multiracialism, not necessarily multiculturalism. I think multiculturalism, different cultures, some cannot exist, but a multiracial society may be able to exist if we have a unified, some form of unified culture that is based on merit. And people progress because of competence, and societies that accept competence are the ones that progress the most, in my opinion.
Well, you remind me. I apologize. Am I interrupting? I just wanted to.
Go ahead. No. Go ahead.
I believe it was the comedian George Carlin. He made a joke, and I have to paraphrase because I cannot remember it verbatim, but it was something to the effect of, imagine how stupid the average person is. Now realize that half of the world's population is even dumber than that. People aren't going to, you can't just, you're speaking in platitudes, as James Hake and Jesse Lee Peterson would. People need to know right and do right. Well, people have different understandings of what is right and wrong, and they're just not going to. It just doesn't work that way. It's humanity. We're flawed, and we have to draw borders. We have to pick sides. I don't remember who the person was that asked me if I had. Oh, it was Dennis. Said, "What side are you on?" I said, "I'm on the side of my people. That's white people. That's people of European descent, and the nations that developed from colonization. Those are my people. That's my side."
Okay, I mean, and there are plenty of blacks that believe that, and there are plenty of Asians that believe that as well. And you have a right to those beliefs. I may disagree with them, but you certainly, in my eyes, have a right to believe that. And you are more punished than other groups for believing the same thing. And those that do not see that are not looking at reality. And I think I do believe that the left hates white people, and they persecute white people of European descent. And people of European descent are fine around in many parts of the world, but wherever leftism raises its head, white people of European descent, will be the victims of envy and vendetta. They will. There is a claim that what their ancestors have done, there needs to be historic punishment. And I'm seeing quite a bit of that in a lot of, particularly within the African diaspora. There is a large punishment phase.
Reparations. They're calling it reparations, but it's punishment.
Not only reparations, but they want a form of restorative justice, which is really about vendetta and vengeance.
Yeah, and vendetta and restoration. For what crime? We never committed the crimes. What's the first nation in the world, in the history of the world, that outlawed slavery? Well, it was a white nation. It was England. It's just, I don't want to get stuck in this position where I'm constantly trying to apologize for something that is a lie. Yes, were there atrocities committed by the United States, by England, and other white nations? Absolutely, but there were atrocities committed by all nations. Slavery still exists, and it runs rampant in parts of the Middle East and in parts of North Africa. Where's
And
there
even here, Johnny,
What's
there's
that?
still slavery here. Human trafficking is what they call it, but it's slavery. So we
Yeah.
still have a problem with it now. So if they want reparations from back then, what about the young people that are being enslaved today?
Well, we have laws against it. At least they don't. Still to this day, they don't. They talk about the 420, I believe, 420,000 African slaves, black African slaves, were brought to the United States of America. When are they going to start talking about the 2 million white slaves that the Arabs took? And that was Arabs and Jews that took them in the first place. It wasn't us. It was
True.
Arabs, Jews, and black North Africans that enslaved other blacks and sold them. We bought them. We didn't enslave them. I'm not saying that slavery didn't exist. We certainly had our own slave trade across the Western world, but nobody knows about these things, and nobody wants to talk about them because it's against the narrative. What is the narrative? It's white people bad, anti-white, white people bad. That's what it is. That's what they push. Oh, I'm sorry, my anger. I gotta be stoic. I apologize, Brian.
Well, I kind of want to say that society is only as just for its time. And it's one thing to look at the past, it's another thing to live in it. And a lot of people live in the past. They live in the past because there is an ego in their victimhood. And I will say this, I think that China, and I could be wrong on this, but China also, there are, I think, portions of China that also fought against slavery and railed against slavery. Could be completely wrong about that, but I've heard that as well. So there were noble people across the world that have always been against slavery, and they've come in every stripe, every race, every ethnicity, who saw what was wrong and tried to right it. And those are the people that I want to team up with, those who know what is wrong and immoral. And it's immoral what is done to our law enforcement, and it's immoral what is done to what I see as people of European descent. But again, there are moral people across the world.
I completely agree.
And those are the people that I want to contend with. I look for my safety and even my well-being, but I always look for, you can tell a person, a lot of times you can tell whether a person is noble and good just by talking to them for a few moments. And if they don't give you the time of day, just keep moving, keep walking and keep moving. But there are noble, good people out there of every stripe and every race. And some of the most noble people I ever knew.
But why do you feel the need to say this? Because white people are the ones that are being attacked. It's not the others.
I absolutely agree with you, but they're not a lot of times they're not the most vulnerable. And regardless of whether I like it or not, the most honorable and noble people, some of the most honorable and noble people I've ever known, were the immigrants that I worked with in construction. They were individuals who, did the right thing. They were very noble and good and decent people. And that's just a personal experience. And also the people, the foremen and other people that I've worked with that really did the hard manual labor. And I would love to be in condition where I can do that again and live that kind of life, because there is an invigoration when you do that kind of work. And even getting up at 4 a.m. and working till 6 p.m. and then doing it again, there's an invigoration and a vibrancy that comes from that labor that my grandfather knew. My father did a little bit of it, but my grandfather, that always stuck in his brain. He was, he did work he was up, up sunrise and then till sunset. He would work, and a lot of people did that to build this nation. And that's the kind of nobility I think we need to get back to.
Well, I'm not a very noble person, but I've done that. I used to get up at sometimes 2:30 in the morning. I work a 16-hour day in demolition, breaking concrete, throwing it in a wheelbarrow, taking it to the dumpster all day long, and then you get a motel room, fall asleep for a few hours, and then you get back up the next morning and you go do it again. I've done it too. It sounds like you're trying to say that white people have become lazy. And we're not a lazy people. We built the greatest civilizations on planet Earth. And this is another lie that we're constantly told, we're indoctrinated to believe from grade school through college and in the workplace. And we're told it by the news media that, oh, they do the jobs that white people aren't willing to do. What? I'm not willing to pay me and I'll pick strawberries. What do you want me to do? I'll do anything. I've already done it. I worked under Mexicans. I worked under blacks. They were my bosses. And they were great people. I know most of my friends, my true friends, actually all of my true friends are all Mexicans. I've got nothing against Mexican people. I've got nothing against, they like to call it people of color. And that's another thing that annoys me, because people of color, what that means, it's a fancy, okay, that's a way of saying every single human being on the planet except for white people. So we are the ones that are being excluded. We are the ones that are being attacked. I will not call them people of color. I have color too, and I have meaning too, and so do you, and so does Woodstock, and so do you, JP. So don't allow this. Fight back against it. And like I was saying when I first called this the strain, there is a reason that we have anger. Direct that anger in a positive way. Don't, don't turn it into violence and do something stupid and ruin your life and the lives of others. That is ridiculous and disgusting. Harness it and use it to motivate yourself, to improve yourself so that you can improve the lives of others. Contrary to popular belief, I don't have any white friends, but I'm still white positive.
Let me ask you this. When you did that work, how did you feel when you did that kind of work? What did that make you feel?
It depended on when you would ask me the question. I was a flat saw operator for a time, and before that, I just mainly was the demolition guy. I broke up concrete. At times during the day, I would feel like my body just can't do it anymore and I want to quit. And then there was other times where I said, I can't believe that we just did this. We just demolished this structure. We just accomplished something. And, then the construction guys would come in and do whatever they did. I didn't know about that stuff. I just knew how to destroy. But there was times that I was proud, and there was other times where I felt, yeah, I'm not a religious man. I don't believe in God or gods, but I would just say, oh God, why me? So it was a range of emotions, but generally it just felt like a good hard day's work after the shift was over. And oh goodness gracious, I have to do it again tomorrow. That was about it.
Because there were times like, yeah, I'd feel like, man, what am I doing? This is such backbreaking work, and how am I going to get through the day? But there were times when I'm like, man, you know what, dude? I felt like a man, like like my, and I felt, when I think back on those days, I was honoring those who came before me, who traveled by ships, by boat, and really the settlers and the immigrants built who built this country, who helped maintain it. I felt to a degree I was honoring those who came before me and bettering and just striving to better the condition that I was in, and maybe even the condition of others. I think you owe it to yourself to do the best, and I don't see a lot of men right now, and this is men in this country and around the Western world, feeling self-worth. You see a lot of men who are addicted to drugs, a lot of men who are on the street, and they're not into their self-worth. And if they're I knew two homeless guys. One guy is white, the other guy was black, and actually the black guy I felt actually more sorry for. The white, but both of them were really deeply into their race, and they had really sad stories. One, the black gentleman who was really pro-black, he had lost his mom at the age of 5 years old, and just he occasionally would be able to get himself a piece of property, like somewhere to live, just for a few times. But he would actually sleep in the building in which we worked, and there was another white guy, and he was always about talking about black people, and he had a black stepfather who treated the black stepfather married his mom, and he had children by him, and he favored him over he favored his biological children over his stepkids, and he got kind of the brunt of that. But he was always on the level of complaining, and he was weak, and he didn't work, and he would always complain about all these black guys around him, that they were coming to a white area and what hypocrites they were. And I'm like, dude, you complain all the time, but you can't even function in a job. And I see a lot of people out there. If you went onto Skid Row, you would probably find a lot of black militants, but you probably find a few white militants too. But they're on the street, and they're not functioning parts of society. And that's the kind of dregs you get a lot of times when you are dealing with people who are the race hustlers. There are a few that make a profit, but for the most, there's the Tariq Nasheeds and the Jared Taylors, but for the most part, those individuals, I don't, the people who are really into that stuff, I don't think they make a profit. I don't think it's profitable. And at the end of the day, at the end of the analysis, I don't think it's intelligent. There are intelligent aspects to it, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's intelligent to think in that manner, strictly in that manner. I do believe that people of European descent are being mistreated, but I also believe that a lot of other people see that as well, and they know that, and there are people that can see reality for what it is, and there are those that cannot. I'll conclude myself, Donning, if you have a response to that, because my main point was at you, and it's no offense. I believe that you have the right to believe what you want to believe, and I believe that you should have a platform to believe what you want to believe, just as everybody else. Go ahead. Donning, do you have a response to what I said?
Oh, I apologize. I muted myself. Um, I fear that maybe I have not been coherent enough or explained myself well enough to give you my position. Because yes, there are certainly, most definitely, without a doubt, non-whites who are hardworking, grateful people, great noble people, and I don't think that there isn't. I'm not saying that white people are better than non-white people. I've known, as I've said, most of my street fights were with white people, and they were scumbags. I myself, I've said, I came from a troubled background, and this is no excuse, but I'll just tell you guys a little bit about myself. I came from a broken home. In my case, I have mommy issues. She used to beat the living crap out of me my whole life, degrade me, put me down, and it led to me becoming an angry teenager, and then that led to me becoming uh, not a thug, but I wanted to hurt people, and then I got into drugs, and then obviously, if you're doing drugs, you're going to get into alcohols, and this is why in the last stream I told you that your struggle might be food, my struggle is alcoholism. All right, and I still struggle with it to this day. But my only point is that we work better with our own kind. That's my only point. And I I hope black people build Wakanda. I think it's completely possible for them to do it. I don't have anything against any other race. My only point is that we work better together and let white people are the ones that are under attack and not allowed to love themselves. So like I said, all of my friends are Mexican. I'll send you a video of some of my friends if you want. I can share it in the chat if you want. You could see the crew that I used to run around with. All right. I got nothing against anybody. I just think that we'd all be better off, white people and everyone else, but especially white people, because we are the ones that are being attacked. We'd all be better off if we embraced that pro-white, pro-black, pro-whatever inner love for your own kind. And it seems like no matter how I say it, I'm constantly painted as being this Nazi, racist, bigot, white privileged, whatever. I'm not white privileged, man. Yeah, like I just told you that I work demolition, breaking concrete for $13 an hour, 16 hours a day. It's if that was privilege, it certainly didn't feel like it. I have love for everybody, and I want all of their cultures to continue to progress, to exist. And it's ours that's under threat, ours being white. And I wanted to ask you this question, Brian, and I'll ask you really quick, and I'll be done with it. I know that I can get rather long-winded. I apologize. Let's just say that there's 100 million people that live in Latvia. You're from Germany, right?
No, I was born in Germany, but I'm English, Irish, German as well. But my father was in the Air Force, and I was born on an Air Force base My mother was another American who was selling cosmetics to the GIs when I was born.
Okay, so let's take England then, all right? And I'm also majority English. Let's say that there's 100 million people in England. How many millions of Pakistanis could migrate to England until England is no longer England? Because you know that there's got to be a breaking point. I
Well,
mean, if it's 100%, is it really England anymore, or is it, uh, you know, mini Pakistan? What is it?
and I will agree with you on Europe, and I may even agree with you somewhat on America. Now, what do your your Latino or Mexican friends feel about your? Do they know about your stance, and if so, how do they feel about it?
Yeah, they know about my stance. It usually starts off with them saying, "Hey, Holmes, you're from the race. Oh, sorry, you're a racist." Uh, and after I describe it over and over again, eventually they start to, because they know that I'm not a racist. So it starts off jokingly. They don't attack me or anything like that. But slowly and gradually, they begin to understand what I'm trying to say, and then they kind of just agree. But what are they going to do? They live in America. They're, apparently just as American as I am at this point, which is not true, but that's what it is. And especially with Asians, because I know Asians as well. And when I explain things to them at first, they're bewildered. They can't really understand what I'm trying to say, but they completely agree and much quicker. They completely understand, like, no, I'm from, I'm Filipino. Philippines is for the Filipino people. We wouldn't allow that here. They get kind of like angry and then bewildered as to why we would do this to ourselves. They just say, "Why are you white people doing that to yourselves?" The reactions that I get from non-whites are much more positive than the reactions that I get from white people. White people have been indoctrinated and taught to believe that they are evil, their history is evil, they are bad people, and they should be replaced. Nobody else in the world thinks that way. It's only us. And I've heard it described as pathological altruism. Uh, Call it what you will, but this is a problem and it's going to get worse. That's my point, and I'm sorry that I've spoken so long. You guys, everybody else, have a conversation.
Well, I mean, the fact, I mean, to me, I don't want to say that the fact that most of your friends are Mexican, they're here now. The 1965 Immigration Reform Act has changed things, and human beings by nature are going to go where it is better. And the immigrants that come here are admitting that it's better just by their actions, not what they say. And I don't give a hoot what anyone says. Show me in practice what you mean. Show me, like if someone says they want a nation of justice, well, show it to me in practice. Show me what you mean, a nation of justice. When they say change America to a nation of justice. Well, do you have any countries in mind that
Uh,
you?
yeah, when I say peaceful separation, I'm not saying we get rid of all of the non-white people, because that's impossible. That's not possible. It cannot be done. It's not viable. So they do it on themselves. They do it by themselves. That's why you have Chinatowns. That's why you have cities and communities that are vast majority are black. That's why you have cities and communities, even within just Asian communities. You have little Tokyo, little Cambodia, little China. They naturally want to be with their own kind. And I do as well. I want to be with my kind, but my skin is a little too pale for that, apparently. So the media likes to call me a racist, Nazi, bigot, misogynistic, whatever. I'd say just it's going to happen whether you want it to or not. And the more you try to force natural human instinct to do what is not natural, the more backlash you're going to get, the more problems you're going to get. We already have white communities, but those are the racist ones, and black communities and all the other communities. We have, where is it Michigan where they have the Arab uh, Muslim community? They have their community. They know what to do. They want to be with their own. It's too late. They're in the country. There's nothing that we can do about it, unless if they're illegal aliens. Then yeah, I'll help pack their bags and drive them to the airport. Then they could take a plane ride back to wherever they come from, Guatemala or something. I'm not against anyone. I see the way that it works, and the more integrated a society is forced to be, the more violence and the less societal trust you can expect from that society. I'm trying to stop violence. I'm not trying to provoke it. But no matter what I say, I'm always looked at uh, as if I were trying to cause harm, as if I were trying to cause problems. I don't believe in that. I think everybody should love themselves, love their people, and respect each other, no matter where they come from. Mike Free.
I'd like to ask one more question before you go. So, why are most of your friends Latino? Being who you are, how come you have not found more white people to agree with you and more white friends?
Uh, White people are scared. They're scared to even talk about race, and you know what? They should be, because why do you think I hide my face when I do my streams? Why do you think I don't have my camera on right now? Because I could get fired from my job. I can get targeted. I could have my family members targeted. Uh, we live in a nation, and this is an actual fact. This has happened, where if you say Black Lives Matter, you get an invitation to go have dinner at the White House with the President of the United States. If you say White Lives Matter, well, then you get an FBI investigation outside your door. And that's a disgusting, sick world. It's an anti-white world. It makes me angry. I'm getting angry, but not, I'm still peaceful. I don't want to hurt anybody. I just look at Woodstock's picture and I'm good. Breathe. But they should be afraid. What's that? Sarah Dunn or Sarah Chow or something that works for the New York Times. She publicized, or it came out that on her Twitter page, she said, I'm so happy and thank God that white people are going extinct. I can't wait for them to be extinct. And then she posted another Twitter about how she fantasizes about putting a bullet in the back of white people's heads. And what happened to her? She got a promotion. Now she's on the editorial board, you know? But if you say White Lives Matter, you'll get fired from your career. You get fired from your job. You might have to sell your house and move to a new location. The mob might come from you. This is all backwards. It's all wrong, and it's all geared towards white people. And I'm sorry that I get so inflamed, but I am passionate about these things. I think, yeah, okay, I'll just drop the mic.
Yeah, you were talking about, I think it was Sarah Zhang. She was one of the people that were caught saying really horrible things, and the New York Times hired her anyway. And if the roles were reversed, that person would be completely barred. And there is an absolute double standard. And I think people can speak hard truths. And if you do it without being angry, I mean, there's always the possibility that someone will try to punish and harm you. But if I think one, well, I think one can speak hard truths, and if they do it without anger and and realize that there's anger there, but they strive to control their anger. They can say things and have less likelihood to be attacked. It's when you're angry and you're full of bluster and self-righteousness where you are most likely to be attacked. And also to be realized where and when your ideas are going to be accepted, and when and where these ideas are not going to be accepted. But again, I still believe in nobility and goodness and striving to have that within our society, and having a civil society and a civil world. We have to unite with a civil world. And right now, the uncivil people have too much power, and they are able to punish the people who are civil and are noble. And just as I guess America and her allies defeated the Nazis, and they defeated the North Korean communists and the Chinese and the Soviet communists in Korea, I think we need to unite again to defeat this scourge that has taken over our nation and much of the civilized world. That's just my opinion, and I'm going to end the show. And if anyone has anything to add, Joey, you've been quiet for a while. Is there anything to add, or have you left the room for a cup of tea?
I'm good. I think it was about as boring as it gets for the last 45 minutes, but I do commend you and Donnie Osmond on your great efforts. What a show. You guys do a great job.
They did. They really did. I really enjoyed what was it, the last 20 minutes. Thought there was a lot of good ideas discussed.
Absolutely.
Come back for the next show. I hear an echo. And join the conversation at Transparency and Merit. If you don't mind, to help them out with the algorithms, could you click like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell? Because there's so many good conversations that I would hate for you to miss. And I'm just a fan. So, concluded.
Donnie, do you have anything to add before I end this show?
I'll just add what I've said previously. Great show. I do like it. Obviously, I'm kind of hooked, and everybody deserves the right to love themselves, including our people, our folk.
Well, with that being said, we need, I think it is good. Transparency and merit. You can't have merit without transparency, and transparency comes from conversation, sometimes debate and disagreement. And that's what we had today. And you can have a disagreement with someone without being disagreeable or violent. You can have differences of opinions without being disagreeable or violent or punitive. These things can happen, and we can get to a real and honest place with that. And with that being said, like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, perhaps even share this video, and visit our Rumble page as well. We have a Rumble page. And then also, like I said, visit our website at transparencyandmerit.com. This has been Transparency and Merit. This has been a Stoic Calm show. Thank you all for listening, those few who have. Thank you.